So the Barricade T4 side steps will be one of the most affordable and one of the widest steps currently available if you own an 09 to 18 quad or crew cab Ram 1500. At around the $200 price point, anything that is less expensive than the T4 steps will generally be 3 inches in width, or they'll be a little bit smaller, or they will be a tube step design, which offers a little bit less real estate for your feet as opposed to these nice flat steps, especially if you're wearing big boots or something like that. Now, even though these are very affordable, they're still very well built. They're actually made out of stainless steel and they have a nice powder coat finish on them. Powder coat's awesome because it's actually a baked on, heat treated finish. It's tough as hell. It's usually applied to things like armored bumpers. So it's safe to say you really have to work at it to actually scrape the finish off of these things. And if you manage to do so, you don't gotta worry about them rusting out on you because they are made out of stainless. Now, they are also a bolt-on job. If you do own an 09 to 10 Ram 1500, you might have to do some basic drilling to the pinch seam, but I promise it's very simple stuff. If you've ever touched a hand drill, you're probably competent enough to get these done. Therefore, I'm gonna give that install a 1 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. Promise you, you can definitely get this done at home in probably an hour or two. So again, if you want one of the most affordable 4-inch wide steps for your 09 to 18 Ram 1500, go ahead and pull the trigger on the T4 steps and then come back in just a moment. I'll show you what tools you need and then I'll walk you through that install step by step. To install your new side steps, you'll need the provided Allen key in the kit as well as a standard drive ratchet. You'll also need a 10mm deep socket, 10mm wrench, 13mm deep socket. Now, optional but helpful tools include a 5/32 Allen head socket, a swivel socket, and a cordless impact. All right, so the first thing we have to do is get some bolt plates inside of the rocker panel. Those are going to secure the support brackets for our side steps themselves. Now, in order to do that, you're actually going to grab one of the other bolts provided in the kit, thread it into the nut side of the bolt plate. You're going to use that as a little handle to fish this into those holes. It's easier if I just show you guys. When you do this, make sure you grab some of these plastic retainers, which are actually going to secure the bolt plates inside those holes once you remove this other bolt. So let's crawl underneath and I'll show you where you're supposed to put these in place. All right, so the holes we're working with are right here. You have this main oval hole. That's where you're going to fish this bolt plate through like so. You want to get the stud of the bolt plate to pop through these little octagon holes here, and then you're going to secure it so it rests against the rocker panel using these little plastic retainers. Once you got the plastic retainer in place, go ahead and remove the bolt, and you're going to do the same thing for the other 5 holes before we install our support brackets. All right, once you got those bolt plates in the quarter panel, you're going to throw your support brackets in place. Now, the support brackets are labeled accordingly: driver rear, driver center, driver front. Same for the passenger side. Now, once you got that support bracket in there, you're going to grab one of these bolts with a flat washer, crush washer. You're going to thread it through the support bracket and thread it into the nut on the bolt plate. Now, you're going to need a 13mm deep socket to tighten this down, but before you do that, you're going to throw a flat washer, a crush washer, and a nut on the end of the stud of the bolt plate as well. And again, 13mm deep socket for this hardware too. Now, when you go to tighten this stuff down, make sure that the 2 oval holes on the bottom of the support bracket are lining up with the holes in the pinch seam. That's a good indicator that you're flush. That's also a good indicator that your side step will line up appropriately so you can tighten it down later. Now, if you're using power tools like me, it's helpful to have a swivel socket. It is a tight fit under here. And once you got one support bracket done, you're going to do the same for the rest. All right, once you got all your support brackets in place, we're gonna reinforce this connection. We're actually gonna secure these to the pinch seam on the truck with the pre-drilled holes that you see here. Now, in order to do this, you're gonna need these little Allen head bolts in the kit. They provide the Allen key, but you'll also need a 10mm socket for the nuts that are supposed to go on the other end. Now, you're also gonna need a flat washer on either side of the pinch seam when you go to tighten all this stuff down. It is a little bit of a squeeze, so if you cannot get a socket on this little nut here, you might have to use a standard box wrench. All right, so you can see I do have to resort to using a small wrench so I can tighten this stuff down. Now, it's obviously a little bit time consuming, but it does make for a cleaner look. If you wanted to, you could flip the orientation of the bolts and nuts so that the nut is on the outside of the pinch seam. However, just keep in mind if you do that, you will have some of these studs poking out, and it might not look as clean, but that's personal opinion, and it will allow you to at least use a socket to tighten this stuff down if you want to speed up the install process. Now, alternatively, if you wanted to go fast, but you wanted to keep the head of the bolt on the outside of the pinch seam, you could invest in one of these Allen head sockets here. It's a 5/32 Allen head. All right, now that all our support brackets are secured, we can install our side steps, but before we do that, we're gonna install these nice little plastic covers here for the brackets themselves. This is technically optional, it's not functional in any way, but it does complete the overall look. We'll be securing this with these little push pins here. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver to tighten all these down. All right, now full disclosure, obviously these are plastic threads here, so if that strips out on you, can simply tap it in gently with a hammer and you'll be good to go. All right, so now we're finally at the fun part, and that's throwing the steps in place. Now I'm still gonna keep the truck up on the lift. Maybe you guys get a good idea of where this stuff is supposed to go, but you're gonna grab the remaining hardware in the kit, these little 13mm head bolts. They already have the crush washers and flat washers pre-installed, so that's easy. Go ahead and throw the steps on top of the support brackets, line up all the holes with the support brackets themselves, throw these in, and then tighten everything down. Alright, so once you got both sides bolted down, that'll wrap up this install. And that also wraps up my review of the Barricade T4 side steps fitting your 09 to 18 quad and crew cab Ram 1500. I'm Travis, thanks for watching, and for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.